Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson, and introducing the reigning, two-time defending 145-pound featherweight champion of 247 Fighting Championships, Ethan the Wolverine Goss. Hey, buddy.
You enjoy that. You enjoy that, don't you?
I enjoy it way too much. Hey, buddy, partner. I missed having you next to me in the broadcasting booth. So did Ryan Kavanaugh. But man, did we love watching you in the cage defending the strap for the second time as the main event for Brandenburg 16, the biggest, most successful, most important fight card 247 FC has ever put on. God, there's so many different questions I want to ask you. I guess we'll start with the obvious one. Sold out crowd, insane atmosphere. You're the main event. You put on an electric performance. Was that to you kind of picture perfect as far as the crowd, main event, getting a finish in the first round? Like, what are your thoughts right off the top? And then we'll dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, man, it was an honor, to one, be on that card, and two, to headline it. You know what I mean? To be the main guy on the show. But that was definitely an honor. I've been to the casino fights there, the first show where I called with you and Ryan. I really enjoy being on the table, but I really enjoy winning in the cage better. So I knew it was going to be a loud, like, crazy atmosphere, and I told my coaches too, like, be prepared to be loud. You know what I mean? Because it gets rowdy in there. And I think it's like, I don't know if the tent's soundproof or something or what, but that many people crammed in there, and and it's not a really big area, but they fit 1,300 people in there, and so it gets very loud, very obnoxious. But yeah, just to be on the card was an honor, and to headline it was even more of an honor. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in some pretty fantastic fights, having already fought for Bellator, and you fought all over the place. So I know you have dozens of fights in your pro and amateur career. So it's cool that it ranks up there as just a great experience for you. Not to mention the outcome. I'll get in a little bit to the fight itself. Calvin Hero Harbaugh had just put on a show. I didn't get to see it live, but I got to watch it on the 247 Live app. A shout out to everybody that's excited and interested in MMA, particularly high-level regional MMA. They should download the app, get the subscription to get the catalog of every 247 fight that they've ever put on, including the first card. And you were on the first card. You and Kama were both on the first ever 247 card. And so that means a lot. But in my research of Calvin Hero Harbaugh, obviously you did more. He had just come into Enemy Terry in December and taken out Shaka Worthy. And in that fight, and in many of his fights, because he had 4 wins at pro level, all by submission, he chained submission attempt after submission attempt. And I'm sure you were aware of that, particularly because he did it against Shaka. Spoiler alert, you got a submission win. You know that. But for the people out there that might not, you got an incredible mounted guillotine. You started off underneath. It's kind of what I refer to as sort of the Diaz brothers. They would sometimes start off underneath like you did and then roll over to the top. I'm sure other people have done it. But knowing the outcome now, I don't want to skip over the fact of how dangerous he is on the ground. How much thought and training went into the fact that on the ground, he's on paper a very dangerous and maybe even more dangerous on the ground than on the feet? What were your thought process of respecting his ground game, or maybe you didn't, and knowing that he loved to chain? Just he's like a train in the sense that he just chains it back to back times. What were your thoughts on his ground game prior to the fight?
I had the privilege of being on the table to call his fight with Chaka, so I seen it firsthand.
Right.
He's very lethal when he gets on your back. So that was one of the things that I definitely didn't even want to give him the opportunity to do, was to get to my back. because it don't matter, who it is, if somebody's on your back, it's tough to get them off. But he does, like I said, he did a very good job with chaining, especially with Chaka. He kept, finding the back, and every time, Chaka would move, Calvin would float him. As far as like the stand up went, I kind of figured I was going to have the edge on the feet. And I think we seen that pretty quick and early in the fight.
Yeah.
The ground, like I knew he was going to shoot within the first 30 seconds in the fight. If you watch every single fight that he has, he's shooting for a takedown in the first, within the first 30 seconds of the opening bell. But I felt completely confident enough that I was going to be okay, wherever I went on the ground with him. I've always classified myself as a very well-rounded fighter. I'm just as good on the ground as I am on the feet, and I'm just as good in the clinch. Where I made a mistake in the fight was, I landed a head kick probably within the first 5 seconds, and then I landed a body kick right after it, and then I went back to the well too many times.
Sure.
And I should have been a little bit more patient. And he timed the shot right when I was letting the third kick go. I should have been a little bit more patient, held distance, because I knew at that point he was done. He wanted to wrestle. He was able to get the takedown. We had some scrambles. I knew that I just needed to be composed and remain calm. You know what I mean? And I kind of, like, this goes into some deeper, mentality stuff, but I watched them show up at the venue. Yeah. As we got there, we had to be there at 5:30. Obviously, him and I wasn't fighting until the main event. We were going on at midnight. So a long time. I watched him when he come in, and he immediately jumped on the mat, started, getting changed, and started shadow boxing and doing sprawls and drills. And, I said to my team, like, he's nervous, why are you working out so early? You know what I mean? And I could sense nervous energy from him. Was he still confident? Yes, he was absolutely confident, but I knew he was going to put all his eggs in one basket in the grappling world, and he was going to try so hard that he was going to make mistakes and there was going to be openings. So what I did was, just remain calm in those situations where he did get the takedown. He was on top. You know what I mean? I used the butterflies pretty effectively. I kept elevating his hips to where he wasn't able to secure a position. And even at one point he passed him out, which I was kind of like, damn, I just let him get them out. And but I was close enough to use the fence to be able to get him off of me. Wall walked up the fence with my feet and was able to hop him off. And even then, we got into another scramble. I got back up to my feet, and he started unloading knees.
Yeah.
I think everybody thought I was getting lit up, but I literally did not get hit by one of them. I kept picking them off. I was watching them come in one by one. I kept parrying them like you would a punch, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to go back down, but I need to make this look like I didn't get rocked by a knee. So I waited. I probably waited a little bit longer than I should have, but I was able to get back down to a knee. We got back up. I landed a couple, short elbows and some punches there in the clinch, and he went for the other takedown. And I used a modified 100% sweep with the butterfly elevation, and that's what turned him to mount. And as I went to mount, I was like, I had an arm guillotine as we went over, but I was so deep around the neck, I just let go of the arm, and it ended up being a one-arm guillotine for the finish.
Well, that's actually a little detail that's always cool to know, sort of how your brain's thinking. What gave you the confidence to transition to a one arm? Basically, that you were in so deep, it was tight.
Yeah.
It was
I
pitched
mean,
that you didn't actually need the top hand.
yeah, it was deep. Like if you watch the film back, like I mean, it was extremely deep. I was completely around. You know what I mean? And with an arm and guillotine, you got to more or less crunch. With
Yeah.
a no arm guillotine, you know what I mean? You more or less arch. And it was so deep around the neck on the right side that I didn't even need the left hand, you know, to
Well,
finish it.
obviously with your good technique, he tapped us pretty much as soon as you
Yeah,
got to the
pretty
mount
quick.
because that position, and you talk about arching, but that position is incredibly worse. I mean, getting caught in
Yeah,
a full guard, top and guard, full guard situation taps many people. But when you roll it over and it's
yeah,
an out, it's a much worse, squeeze. So just incredible. Um, I had come up with some keys to victory, like we sometimes do in broadcast booth. I think with all the concern on time and the fact that there were 16 fights, they didn't have a chance to put them up there. But these are Luke's keys to victory for Ethan the Wolverine Goss. Dynamic striking, which we had just talked about, how um, you you obviously had the advantage in striking against him. I think everybody knew that. What's interesting is you were successful with the kicks, and like you just pointed out, had you thrown some long range jabs or some crosses in there, maybe. But that's the cool part about striking. There's so many layers to it. Then I had put down knees in the clinch. You just mentioned how you figured you would out control him in the clinch, and of course control ground exchanges, which I think you did just fine on controlling ground exchanges because the way I saw him potentially having an advantage is getting your back, right? We just talked about that. And chaining so many submissions together, which you're an absolute veteran of the sport. You could probably keep up with it. But
yeah,
I have seen in jiu-jitsu competitions and MMA where people lose track of where all their limbs are because of chaining submission to submission. There's a cool little transition that I'm sure when you're fighting off your back and you throw up a triangle. If you get the arm, but the triangle's not working, you put the leg over and turn it into an armbar. And a lot of people would never get caught with the armbar until they're defending the triangle. And then, oh no, the armbar's there, right? So there's so many
yeah.
different little things, but clearly you controlled all the aspects of the fight that mattered. Um, let's talk about the fact that you're on a 5-fight win streak. You've been dominating all of your opponents, really. You've been tested in sort of longer fights with Stutho, right? It was a 15-minute drawn out, really incredible, high-paced fight. You've had submissions. It looks like, according to your screen, that you're going by the nickname Wolverine 316. Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into what's next for the champ.
Yeah, man, that was a good line.
Great line.
um, I've said it time and time again, you know, being marketable and, having marketability is a big key factor in this game. Some guys do it different ways. Some guys like to post everything on social media. They like to post all their training videos and stuff. That's not me. I don't do that. I don't like live on social media. I don't post very much of like what I'm doing or what I'm training. And it's just because I don't have the time in the day to be on my phone that much. Um, but you know, I try to take advantage of any time I got a microphone in front of my face. I try to take advantage of that situation. In the last fight, I had I called out, same for Dana. And this one, I thought about it a little bit, and I knew he was a religious man. And like I said, I have no disrespect towards anyone's religion whatsoever. You know what I mean? I respect that. I'm a believer myself, a religious man myself. But the opportunity was there for the taking. And the more I thought about it, I came back to the old Stone Cold Steve Austin line. And I kind of was like, okay, how do I word this for myself? And I started putting things together. And then, like I said on the podcast, on 247's podcast, I'd be driving to the gym every night and I'd pass this same field and it was like a mental clock. I would just start rehearsing it, like saying it out loud. I'm like, that kind of don't sound right. Like maybe I'll change this word or maybe I'll change that word. And, just got it down to where, I won the fight. I was on top of the cage, which I haven't been on top of the cage in a long time. I just, even the finishes that I've had, I just haven't like even thought about jumping on the cage. And it was funny because me and Justin were in the back talking about like getting on top of the cage. And we, and it happened. And the next thing you know, I jumped the cage and I'm like, oh, and then I'm up there and I'm like, oh, like I got to cut the line now. And like I almost had a brain fart at first where I kind of forgot it. Well, then I started, I wanted to thank my coaches and, Ray's wife, Ange, for helping with the diet. And, my chiropractor for, he had to work on me twice a week for weeks as I was definitely having some issues. But, and then to top it off, I got cut Monday. My eyebrow got cut open. Me and Cam clashed heads in the drill and split my eye open. So it was physically hard camp to get through, but we did it. And so I wanted to thank everybody that was a part of it. And then I was waiting. I was like, all right, I'm going to say this first. Then Luke will probably ask me another question. And then I'm just going to say, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to steal the mic here for a minute and cut what they call a little promo. And then as soon as I started talking, it just started rolling off the tongue just the way that I figured it. And, out came the Wolverine 316, just whooped your ass. And then, I wanted to end it with something. So I needed to end it with me calling to Dana, like, listen, man, I'm ready. That's 5 in a row. Mentally, I'm on a different level, and that's physically brought me to a different level and emotionally brought me to a different level. And then adding Ange into the, equation where she professionally ran my diet, like I never would have guessed that, I've done it myself for 26 fights. This is the first time somebody else was in charge of my diet. And I never would have guessed that I would have felt the way that I felt going into it. I mean, I only had 3 pounds of water weight to cut. I felt like $1 million the day of the fight. I didn't feel sucked out at weigh-ins. I was in a good mood. I didn't even have any road rage going to the fight. Like it was just everything fell into place, and it was just one of those moments where like I felt it. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because like to explain it, you almost feel like you're hovering over the situation and you're looking down upon it, and you can see the next steps and like what's coming and what's not coming. And I felt it. And we started to warm up, and Darren was like, holy shit. Like, I'm not even joking. This is the best I've ever seen you've ever felt in a warm up. And I said, dude, I'm telling you, I'm feeling it. Like, I'm reading it. I'm feeling it. And, everything got put together. I was just 100%, relaxed and calm going in there. And, I think, that showed. So, but yeah, like I said, I knew the microphone was going to get put in front of my face, and I knew I had to take advantage of that. So
Well,
that was what I did.
it's always a privilege doing the in cage post fight interviews. I mean that's such an iconic part of the fight. I love being there for all the fighters, whether it's a finish, like in your case, where fighters know that they're gonna, but sometimes it's a split decision or something, and fighters are a bit surprised. Whatever it is, it's a great opportunity to just be catching those raw emotions and the excitement and adrenaline of a win. What I heard from you talking about how you had to overcome some physical challenges. Shout out, of course, to your chiropractor and to your dietitian and all of that. But I actually heard that Cam the Mallrat Agar was trying to sabotage you a little bit. That's what I just heard. So I don't know what you ever did to him to have him
Yeah,
intentionally headbutt you the week of the fight. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but
I think Calvin had him on his payroll or something, because I
yeah,
mean it
there you
was.
go.
And the crazy part is, like, we banged, like the next night we banged heads like 2 more times, and I'm like, all right, dude, what's going on? Like, you and I have never heard each other in the 5 years we've trained together. Like, no, what's up? Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh man, Calvin pays pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
but
Check
yeah,
his
I mean,
wallet. He
maybe
might have had a
he's
couple extra bills in his wallet, but you
yeah, I
really
mean,
do
maybe he's
train. Go ahead.
maybe he's just trying to be the unofficial featherweight champ. Like,
Sure.
uh,
Maybe he didn't want to have to cut down to 135 and figured, hey, why not just take out the 45 champ? But
Yeah.
we've talked about it. You train at Gorilla House MMA, you cross train at some other gyms, but you've been with those coaches a long time. It's incredible to see the up and comers that they have. Obviously, Cam as well. I know there's some rumors. I don't think it's necessarily announced yet, but I know that there's some rumors that Cam might be looking to get back in the cage. It's been some time since he's fought,
Yeah.
and he's had an incredible amateur career to date. I mean, just fantastic
I
stuff.
mean, I think Cam's probably definitely going to be back in July. Who it's against yet, I can't say, or he can't
Yeah.
say. No one knows. Nothing's etched in stone yet. But yeah, I think Cam's definitely looking to come back, and I'm excited for that, and excited to help him prepare. As far as like training at other gyms as well, Isaac and the Mat Factory guys have been a huge part of my success. And I kind of felt bad for Patton because he kind of got put on the spot. But Justin and I are, we're good friends, and he helps me get better, and I help him get better. And he's one of my main guys that I train with when I come out to Pittsburgh. And we've had this discussion where we realize we're in the same weight class and we're both chasing the same goal. And like he said it perfectly, there's no reason for him to damper my shine or me to damper his. There's no point in it. If we were amateurs, okay, big whoop, who cares? You know what I mean? But we're both professionals, and I believe that he's going to be the guy after me. I hopefully expect to go somewhere in the near future, and he'll be the next guy stepping up in place, and him and I will still continue to be working with each other. And not too many people think like, I mean, him and I are kind of on the same page. We think a lot, like we talk a lot about a lot of stuff, and we're kind of always on the same page with everything. And I definitely, like, I got a whole hell of a lot of respect for that kid. You know what I mean? And even my coaches said that, like, there ain't too many people like that. You know what I mean? Or they want to be a little bit more selfish about it or something like that. But Justin and I got a good thing going where I help him, he helps me, and we both get better. And we don't see a reason for either one of us to ruin that. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's a rare thing, but it sounds like that respect goes both ways. And you're at a point in your career where I think Justin said it on the MMA Fancast interview I did with him, where he could talk a little bit longer than the in cage, but he kind of said that, yeah, he would love to fight for the open 145 belt if you go to a bigger promotion like a
yeah,
UFC, which you've been calling for, and if not, if you're back to defend your belt for the third time, that, I mean, you guys have this legendary. You've now three-peated. When you are main event, you're the main event. He's the co-main event. I
yes,
know you know this. You guys have three-peated it now, to where each of you win your fight. So he said, "Hey, worst case scenario, there's no reason why you wouldn't go to the big show at this point. But if you don't and you're back, headline another card." The humility and the excitement for Justin to say, "Hey, it'll be a co-main event again," and it'll be incredible for both of you. So I think that is very rare. We kind of saw, of course, it was different, but about a decade ago or so, we saw the John Jones, Rashad Evans. Of course, they were literally training in the same gym. I personally think the coaches maybe should have handled it a little bit differently, but saw kind of that split. And that
yeah,
was the first time you kind of saw John Jones's personality and some of his character issues start to come
yeah,
to the surface. But yeah, I do think it's a great thing you and Justin have. I don't think I've ever heard a bad word about the Mat Factor or Coach Isaac Greeley or your coaches for that matter. And I can't remember who it was. I gave a shout out to it while it was happening, but one of the fights, Coach Isaac Greeley was just in another corner's corner. Like he just, I don't know if it was planned, but
yeah,
it was lower on the card. There were 16 fights, but it always is impressive to me how close knit the MMA community is. The 4 or 5 gyms that fight the most on 247, everybody kind of is in each other's support network.
yeah.
So I think it makes perfect
Um,
sense.
yeah, Isaac is literally the only other guy
Yeah.
the only other person that I would consider, putting in my corner. And we even talked there, before I went out Saturday night, I was like, listen, like, just if you can, just stay close to Darren and Ray. You know what I mean? Just I want Isaac to come up like right behind him, sit right behind him,
Yeah.
just so we're all kind of in the same spot. I didn't realize it, but I apparently for title fights you're allowed to have 4 corners. I thought
What?
as a pro you were only allowed 3,
It's good to
but I didn't
know.
realize that until afterwards. You know what I mean? So I probably would have put Isaac on, and if I come back and do another one at 247 here, probably will keep have Isaac in the corner, and if something does happen where I get the call and I'm allowed to take 4 guys, like Isaac will be the guy that I want to take with me along with Ray, Darren, and Cam. um but yeah, as far as like me and Patton headlining and co-headlining, we basically picked up where me and Kama left off, because every time Kama headlined and I co-headlined, Kama and I both went undefeated.
Yeah.
And then Patton and I picked right up off of it. As I said, we're the 1-2 punch, buddy. You get it started, I'll finish it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and it's been working extremely well for us. So
Well, and it also worked extremely well for the dynamic duo, you and Kama, because he ended up going to the UFC and you ended up taking over the headlining duties. So yeah, it's kind of beautiful, and it's great to see those relationships. Thanks for giving us a little bit of an insight into your corner and kind of what you're looking for the future. And it's wonderful to hear that Cam, the mole rat Algar plans on making his return. That July card is already exciting just knowing he's on it. I was just talking to James Lito right before this interview, and he's already announced that he wants to be fighting on that July card as well. And after the fight that he and Ken Burrs put on, it's just exciting to see what not just Pittsburgh MMA, because I know you're more Western Pennsylvania, but what Western Pennsylvania has to offer in MMA. It's just incredible. It really is sort of at that hotbed for everything from amateurs coming up to seasoned veteran pros like yourself. So it's always an absolute pleasure having you on. You know this. It's probably more important that you are the fighter with the most number of fights in a 247 fighting championship cage. I got to throw that out there on the pay-per-view. But I would say also, almost as importantly, you are the fighter who's been on MMA Fancast the most. I mean, you can weigh out which one's more important, but I would say it's really great having you. And every time you come on, you just keep setting that bar higher and higher for somebody else to dethrone you in the number of times on the card. So when you're 50 years old and finally retired from fighting, I'll have you back on the card just to make sure we keep your numbers going. So
yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully I'm retired before 50. I don't know. That's a long
Yeah,
ass
that's
run.
like a 30-year career for you, brother.
Yeah.
Didn't Randy
That's a tough
almost make
career to go
50?
30 years.
I think Randy Couture
Uh,
was 48 in his last fight or something
yeah,
like that.
he was 47 or
47.
47, somewhere
Yeah,
around there. Same as Dan Henderson. I mean, he was up over
yeah,
40s, when he retired. But those people were like, they're few and far between. Like
yeah,
Isaac, dude. Isaac's going to be 47 this year, and that dude is the baddest dude in that room.
yeah.
Like when I say I mean, like he puts a whooping on me. He puts a whooping on Pat. And when Calm was there, he put a whooping on Calm. Like, dude, he is just a phenom. Like, well, one time he ran through me, Nick Brown, and Calm, one right after the other, like we were nothing. And it was like, dude, how are you doing this at 45 years old? Like we're, young bulls here that, are, pretty good fighters, and you're just annihilating us. But if some people are like it, man, and hopefully, I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off. But hopefully I got a good amount of years left in me, and I believe I'm ready for the next step. I feel I'm ready for the next step. I feel like my performances and what I'm showcasing in the ring, and even on the microphone, and everything's just clicking for me. I hit a different mental level. I think I'm ready to I feel that I'm ready to compete at a world-class level. And my management team's working on some things, and we'll just give it a little bit of time here and see what plays out. If not, if something doesn't happen, I will most likely be back, whether probably not the July show, but if nothing happens this summer, then I'll most likely be back for the October show.
Sure.
Back to defend the title again. But I don't want to be inactive. last year I fought twice. I'd like to do 2 to 3 a year, if
Sure.
I can, but we'll see what the cards play out. You know what I mean? I play the cards I'm dealt. Same as with getting ready for this fight and dealing with the injuries and stuff. I just play the cards that I'm dealt. And, if I can keep playing them, I keep playing them. So,
Well, I think you've made an incredible case. Obviously, you've got a management team working on it. Personally, we've seen the development. I think this would be year 5 of the Tuesday night Dana White Contender Series, and I think it's year 4 or 5. And obviously, I think you should skip right over and do accommodate and go right in to like a pay-per-view card. But I could also see, given the fact that you're on a 5-fight win streak and you've literally peaked perfectly. It's April, and you've got the opportunity because the Dana White Contender Series is all summer long. You've kind of said you're going to wait to see. So whatever happens, happens. I'll be a huge fan and supporter. But we've seen what's cool about Dana White Contender Series or any of the UFC fights is records don't. I mean, you're on a 5-fight win streak. That's what matters. But what matters is what happens in the cage. And we've seen the Dana White Contender Series. Some of the guys that come in with more well-rounded records. With you fought everybody there was to fight in your up and coming, both in amateur and pro. And there are pro fighters that get to an impressive 4-0, 5-0, maybe 6-0 on the regional circuit because they've been more selective. We'll just leave it at that. That's not your
Mhm.
style. And I've seen plenty because I love the Dana White Contender Series. I think Tuesday night, that's really a special time because you see people really rise or fall, and it's all about the competition level. That's really what it comes down to. It comes down to the level of competition you face. You've always been a guy. I think my favorite quote from you, besides the Wolverine 316, obviously, is back in May of 21 in a different era during COVID. They had a day-night doubleheader of MMA fights. You came on this show and you said that you wished you would be able to fight both. And that night would have worked. You had a really
Yeah.
great quick finish, and it actually would have worked for you to do 2 in the same
Yeah.
night. But yeah.
Yeah, man. As far as contender series goes, they're doing 20 weeks this year.
What? I
Like I said,
20.
20 weeks.
It's always been like
My
11 or
and
12, something like that.
my
Like, wow.
my name's been plugged in for it.
Okay.
Whether they choose me or not, that's up to them. One of the things that Dana said last season that really stuck out to me was, I don't care what you did in the past. I don't
Yeah.
care what happened in the past. I have, a couple losses on my record, and I look at that as, that goes both ways. Like, I have a couple losses on my record that's in the past,
Mhm.
but obviously I've, turned it around and I've beaten good dudes and I'm stringing it all together. Like, I'm proving to you that I'm ready for this opportunity. Also, I think they have my name. I also told them, like, listen, any inkling of a chance that
Mhm.
something I might be interested in, my answer is already yes. 1 week notice, 2 week notice, whatever it might be, even a possible 155-pound fight. Whatever, if it comes across your desk and you think I'm interested in it, you
You're
already know my answer.
yeah.
So this what we do. That's what we've been preparing for the last 11 years of my life. Um, that was the end game for me, was to make it there. And so, any opportunity that comes open, or even if the door cracks open, I'm gonna kick it in. You know what I mean? If they give me that chance, then the answer is yes. And I've said, I don't care who it is, I don't care where it's at in the world. Um, you know, I'm in 100% in. And ideally, I would rather have a short notice call up, kind of like how Kama got.
Okay.
Um, but if I got to go through contender series, answer is yes. You know what I mean? Let's do it. So we'll see. You know what I mean? I don't want to get excited or put eggs in one basket, or know
Sure.
what I mean, put the chariot ahead of the horse. But um, we'll just see what happens. They asked me to do a job, and management team asked me to do a job, and I held up my end of the deal, and they said, let us do our thing now. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens.
Exactly. You've done your talking both in the cage with your fighting and also on the mic. So you're the total package. You're well rounded. I think that's a perfect place to kind of, this is a to be continued, because
Yeah.
you're at a great turning point in your career. This is the to be continued part. And so I can't wait to see what the next interview of us on MMA Fancast with you back on will be. It's something's going to be exciting no matter what fight is next. There's so many different options, whichever way it goes. I'm excited for you. And as
I
always,
I feel big things are coming. I definitely do. Just like I felt it Saturday night, I feel it with this too. But like I said, time will tell. We'll figure out what happens when it happens.
sounds incredible. Thanks so much for coming back on the show. Everybody, you don't even need me to say this, but I love saying the name, so I'm going to say it one more time. You've been listening to the reigning, two-time successfully defended 145-pound featherweight champion of the world for 247 Fighting Championships, Ethan the Wolverine Goss. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, brother. It's always an honor.
Hey, take care, bud. All right.
You too, buddy.
You got it. Bye-bye.